On a momentous day, drop it. All right, we've got a power panel on a day that I would argue ended the Trump presidency. I'm there. I'm already there.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just eager to win the bet we made last night at the post game.
Well, that was the quickest bet I ever won. Okay, so we will explain. It's the first story up in a second, but first, Jules Slim.
You get it every time.
Brooke Thomas, John Idarola. My name is Jay Huger. We got a show for you guys tonight, okay? It's amazing. From the very first story to the very last story, the last story is... It's just the most amazing conspiracy you've ever heard in your life. You will not be able to believe it, but people do. It's amazing. So don't miss the end of the show either. Of course, you get the whole show at tyt.com/join. Become a member, support independent media, and get all of our programming. But first, we start with the end of the Trump presidency. John.
Am I supposed to leave like a spot where you can...
No, I don't have the soundboard with me.
Oh, okay.
So when he actually goes down, don't worry. The soundboard will be here.
We'll see. Okay. This week just keeps getting worse for Donald Trump, with another of his highest profile associates flipping on him, as he likes to say, perhaps the highest of all. This is Alan Weisselberg, Chief Financial Officer for the Trump Organization. You might have heard of it. It's affiliated with Donald Trump. Was one of the executives who helped arrange $420,000 in payments to Donald Trump's longtime attorney, Michael Cohen, to help reimburse him for hush money he paid to an adult film star. Weisselberg is also one of two trustees of the trust that controls the president's assets. The other, to give you context, is Donald Trump Jr. So this guy and Donald Trump's son, the one that he likes a little, those are the two people that control all of those assets. So this guy is about as high placed as you could possibly be. He was granted immunity by federal investigators in New York in exchange for his truthful testimony about his roles in those payments. So that was the big breaking news this morning.
Indeed. This is as big a news as you can imagine. First of all, let me begin by screaming, Weisselberg, straight ahead! Okay, the last voyage of the USS Trump-tanic. Okay, that's the guy who keeps Donald Trump's books. He doesn't keep Donald Trump's books on just Stormy Daniels or other payments to mistresses. He keeps all of his books. He has been with Donald Trump, though, to be fair, only since the 1970s. He has all of his books, all of them. So now let's break down what this immunity deal means. Immunity means I need immunity because I have committed a crime. Second thing that it means is prosecutors ask you ahead of time, what is the evidence you're going to give us to see if we will give you immunity. They don't take it on blind faith. they ask you, what do you have? And if it's good enough, they give you immunity for your crime breaking, that you are law breaking, that you are admitting to. So prosecutors looked at the evidence and said, good enough. And they gave him immunity. He already testified apparently earlier in the year. Yeah. That, by the way, might be the reason Cohen has already pled guilty and is cooperating with prosecutors. It might be the reason David Pecker, who runs National Enquirer, is now cooperating. The Rats has immunity. The Rats have begun to leave the ship. Not begun, they've left the ship entirely. In the core group of Donald Trump, the only people remaining, basically, are his family members. Now, the political Rats haven't quite figured it out yet. Washington hasn't quite figured it out yet. They're like, oh, this is a very interesting story about an accountant or something like that, and it's in regards to hush money about Stormy Daniels. No! They have the books! The guy's a lifelong criminal. You can say, oh, Jack, you don't know, come wait a minute, that's some assumptions. Same thing they said when I said Mark Sanford was not on the Appalachian Trail. Okay? There was no way he was on the Appalachian Trail. Well, you don't know that. No, okay, we'll find out. But you're telling me a guy, by the way, the crime that most likely Weisselberg committed, and hence why he needed immunity, was falsifying financial records. A guy who claims he has $10 billion, who has nowhere near $10 billion, who has all those shady financial dealings in his past. He didn't participate in falsifying any financial records? Come on. It's over. I'm ready for the countdown. You guys have it? Okay, let's do the countdown. It's a count up, actually, to the end of the Trump presidency, because it's already over. It's just a matter of when he actually leaves office. So it's day one. It's a tiny one. Tiny little track.
It'll get bigger as we get closer.
Anyway. It's so tiny I can't find it.
Hey, it's blocking half the screen. Can we shrink that thing a little bit? Jesus.
Day one, I'm ready to take bets on how long it'll take, but it won't take long.
It's going to take a while.
You're there.
Oh, it's done.
Yeah.
You too.
This is the guy who has, not only does he know where all the bodies are buried, but he buried like half of them under the direction of Donald Trump. So I tweeted out today a link to the story, and it's over.
Say, I did the same exact thing. So we're apparently on the same track. Look, to talk about, wait, but Jules understated it. He doesn't know where half the bodies are burned. He knows where all of the bodies are burned. Because if you remember the story about Donald Trump using his dad's accountant, basically the person who kept the books before Weisselberg, who's the chief financial officer of Trump Organization, the accountant said, oh, Donald would barely pay attention in the meetings. Ivana, on the other hand, his first wife, was smart. Okay? And then they asked him about his father. He's like, no, his father was a good businessman. Okay? And he's trying to help Trump. So Trump cannot do his own books. He's simply not nearly intelligent enough to do the books. So Weisselberg has all of the books. And if he did any shady dealings, it's in the books. And the person handling the books must, by definition, know about it. So, now, it is possible, theoretically, I don't know if the universe can even, conceive of this theory, that Donald Trump has never broken any law. From the 1970s to now, he's just the cleanest man you've ever seen. And so when they asked Weisselberg, he's like, yeah, I mean, there was a mistress with Stormy Daniels and the hush money, but that's all. And then maybe prosecutors will take his word for it. But I find that to be highly unlikely.
It is possibly unlikely. But as of right now, in terms of the cooperation deal, the way it has been described by all the people who are familiar with it is that it is about these particular payments. So Weisselberg could know about all this other stuff, but so far there's no indication that he's cooperating based on all of this other stuff. It's not impossible, I'm just acknowledging that. Look, I think that he probably does know a lot. I certainly think that Donald Trump has committed any number of crimes. But I also think, maybe I'm just being pessimistic or cynical, I suppose, but I don't think that we're operating in the normal laws of, the nature of politics aren't operating right now. Like, there are so many crimes that they can reveal that Donald Trump doesn't care that he committed. His defenders don't care that he committed. His defenders in the media, many of his defenders in the House and the Senate don't care. And so there's lots of things that you can't do in politics that we found out that you can actually do if you're shameless enough.
I completely agree. I'm at this point where I have to see it to believe it. I think that so many wild things have happened over these past almost couple of years, and so many people in power have just rolled over to so many things that too many people don't care.
I know. You know what I'm hearing from you guys? Titanic can't be sunk.
Stop
Sinkable shit. Okay. And what I'm telling you is Weisselberg straight ahead.
Give you more credit on that one now that you've explained it. Can I add a little bit to it, just because I'm fair. I'll bolster both arguments. As of this morning, if we're jumping ahead to graphic 13A,
don't leave me over here though.
You're already on both
arguments.
We're very well. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office is considering pursuing criminal charges against the Trump Organization and 2 senior company officials in connection with those payments, obviously. But officials stress that the office's review of the matter is in its earliest stages and prosecutors have not yet made a decision on whether to proceed. And I will say that this area, we're talking about state prosecutions, state investigations, and potential state charges, of course, gets around some of the supposed protections that the DOJ traditions, based on like one note from 50 years ago, says that he has. We had journalist David K. Johnston on the Damage Report earlier this week, breaking down all the ways this could play out, and then just a day later, this actually happened. So it is not impossible. And I will say that if all they're talking about is Michael Cohen and the payments, and he has gotten immunity, it doesn't make sense that he got immunity to give information about Michael Cohen's lawbreaking, because although you could give more charges against Michael Cohen, they've already got him on a bunch. So it doesn't seem likely that they would push for that. That makes it seem more likely that they would go for someone higher up the food chain like Donald Trump. So I will admit that. But I still believe that he will be president for at least 22 years.
Okay. First of all, let me acknowledge that John is right, that all the articles only talk about the hush money in regards to Weisselberg and the immunity. I was a little surprised that Cohen gave up and pled guilty so quickly. Because, they got him on the taxi cab stuff. The campaign finance stuff is really important. It's a federal crime. It's a felony. But it would have been hard to prove. But he was like, I did it. And it led me to think, what else do they have on him? And Weisselberg already testified earlier in the year. The answer could be a lot. I was super surprised yesterday, even with all that we know, that David Pecker, who has no ethics whatsoever, runs the National Enquirer, did smear job after smear job against Hillary Clinton, Ted Cruz, etc. His job is to lie. He's a professional liar. He's like, okay, I did it. Yeah, okay, immunity, please, immunity, right? Like, Jesus, what do they have on these guys? So today, when we find out about Weisselberg, okay, so look, we'll all find out together, but I will tell you this is really important. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, earlier in the week, were talking about, is it really a big deal? It's not a priority for us in terms of impeachment. Look, before this week, I was not on the impeachment bandwagon. I think that there were things he could be impeached on, the emoluments clause, the ZTE deal, and the list goes on and on. But it would have been a tough thing to prove. It would have been a tough thing to win politically, and impeachment is a political process, etc. And I definitely don't think the Democrats should run their campaigns on impeachment or Russia or any of that stuff. They should run on the issues. But if you've got every single insider of the Trump organization saying, yes, Donald Trump committed a federal crime, Democrats, for God's sake, wake up. You gotta go. You gotta go right now. So it is like, if you're trying to calculate my electoral chances and how is it going to affect my political career, this is not the time for that. You want me to show you what it's time for? Give me graphic one here, Jesus. Okay?
The tracker?
No, you'll see. Okay, this is what it's time for.
Maybe the tracker's up and I can't see it.
It's so big.
This is what it's time for, okay? You can get it at shoptyt.com. Maybe send one to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all the Republicans. So, when you have his chief financial officer, his personal lawyer, his good friend who made up all the stories on his behalf and buried stories and paid for stories on his behalf to bury them, all turning on him saying, yeah, he's guilty. He's guilty. We committed crimes together. That is when you start talking about impeachment.
I think not most interesting, but just like a funny little piece about all of this is the president suggesting that flipping should be illegal. Because I feel like, I'm wondering, do you know how this works? Because if that happened, the federal penitentiaries in America would be just about empty. And if someone showed him the demographics of who's in there, I feel like he'd take that statement back.
So, look, I'm in favor of criminal justice reform. I'm not in favor of making cooperating with law enforcement illegal. Preposterous.
I mean,
That's Trump's no snitches law.
That's exactly
absolutely how the Feds operate, though. It didn't just start with him.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is literally, he's literally tweeting out in so many words, snitches get stitches. Yeah. That's where we're at.
Well, actually, I want to say something based off that, because this is something that Jenk and I talked about off camera, but I don't think we've talked about yet. And it's because there are still people who say that Donald Trump hasn't done anything in any area. They don't believe that, obviously they don't believe that there's any evidence of collusion or whatever. They don't believe that there's any obstruction of justice either, and certainly his defenders are saying that. And I've pointed out multiple cases in which, in plain sight, he was obstructing justice. But this week we had one of the clearest, and that's because with Paul Manafort pleading guilty to 8 different charges, in the context of still having another trial coming up in about a month, while they have been maybe trying to get Paul Manafort to flip now for literally months, if they're going to do it, they're now in the strongest position, Mueller and the prosecutors and all that they've been in ever, because he is actually facing a prison sentence right now. So if he is going to flip, now is the time. And so what happened this week? Well, Donald Trump comes out immediately after the trial and says, Paul Manafort, he's a brave man. He didn't flip. He wasn't one of those ones who flipped. The next day in Scotland, Rudy Giuliani says, you know what, Paul Manafort, as soon as this election is over, we're gonna give him a pardon. And then when questioned on that the next day, he says, we're just talking about everybody. Anybody can get a pardon, not necessarily him. So what's going on there? The Mueller team, the prosecutors, might be able to get Paul Manafort to cooperate to assist in an investigation. And while that's going on, you have the most obvious public social media witness tampering possible, coming from both Donald Trump, who is one of the principal people being investigated, and his lead lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. If that is not obstruction of justice, I don't know what is. I have a feeling, as little as I might know about the mechanics of obstruction of justice and investigations, Robert Mueller knows a lot more. And I have a feeling he was probably paying attention to both of their activities this week.
Look, there's last 2 things that I am upset about in this story, potentially. One is if the prosecutors are really just focusing on the hush money, and they didn't ask Weisselberg about all of the other finances, that would be the biggest case of prosecutorial negligence I have ever seen, and that's the only thing that could prevent the end of the Trump presidency. Because maybe by some miracle he could survive the campaign finance law violations and the obstruction of justice and the collusion and all that stuff. And in that case, you guys have a better chance of being right if the prosecutors just refuse to ask about any other financial improprieties. But if they start looking into his business dealings, O-V-A-H, okay, to quote Spike Lee. And another thing I'm disappointed is that Jules stole my Stitches Get Stitches.
Put it on a t-shirt, wear it next time. It don't make sense.
Well, then maybe all the MAGA guys will buy it.
I dated a guy a few years ago, but he was like telling a joke, and it was like about his little nephew snitching on him, and he was like, I told you Stitches get stitches, and his sister jumps in and goes, no, Stitches get out of jail early, so you better start telling.
And then the other sister jumped in and said, Weisselberg, straight ahead!
Nobody knew what she meant.
Handwriting, meet wall. Okay, next story. Let's do it. Let's keep rolling.
We're not taking a break?
Okay, all right. No, we're on a roll, brother. Okay.
Well, we're on a roll, but unfortunately that does not make for a smooth transition to this. John McCain's family had a fairly somber announcement about the senator's ongoing battle with cancer. Here is a portion of that. Last summer, Senator John McCain shared with Americans the news our family already knew. He had been diagnosed with an aggressive glioblastoma, and the prognosis was serious. In the years since, John has surpassed expectations for his survival, but the progress of disease and the inexorable advance of age render their verdict. With his usual strength of will, he has now chosen to discontinue medical treatment. And if you haven't been following this, Mr. McCain has been undergoing treatment for that cancer since July of last year and has been absent from Washington since last December. Mr. McCain's family has apparently gathered in Arizona, and people close to him say that his death is imminent.
So this is a sad story, in a lot of ways, obviously. But I've never seen this in an article before. In Vox, not Fox, Vox, they said when McCain dies, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, a Republican, will appoint a replacement to serve in the Senate until 2020. Now, it's true, we're all going to die, so you could write in any article when Jake Huger dies, etc. But I've never seen that about a public figure before, so apparently it is obviously imminent. I know this, I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but I hope he can survive until Trump leaves office. That would be awesome. So, and I don't know what his situation is. I don't know if it's day to day, week to week, month to month. Obviously, at this point, they've stopped treatment. And McCain is a complicated character. He is a very interesting part of American history and certainly part of my political lifetime. In fact, I just realized McCain is the very last Republican I ever voted for. I voted for him in the 2000 primaries and then switched over and voted for Gore against Bush in 2000 and haven't voted for a Republican since. And so a lot of people forget he did McCain-Feingold. He was actually for campaign finance reform. So that is an enormous positive for John McCain. Now, and he stood up to Trump at very important times. He even stood up to his own supporters when running against Barack Obama and refused to call him Muslim and said it's not right to say those things about him. And obviously, the thing that everyone remembers about him, and it showed up with the notable exception of Donald Trump, that not only did he suffer torture at the hand of the North Vietnamese when he was captured, but to me the most heroic part of all was when they said, okay, we found out you're the son of a really important admiral in the U.S. Navy, so we're going to let you go. And he said, no, I will not leave unless you let all of us go. Now, that's the kind of bravery that is unparalleled. And for Donald Trump to say, I prefer people who don't get captured, when he got out of Vietnam with what he called a very strong letter about his bone spurs that are obviously non-existent. It was one of the most grotesque things I've ever seen in politics. But I don't want anybody to get me wrong. So you've got to be fair to John McCain and point out all those great attributes that I just talked about. On the other hand, man, he was a hawk, and he supported so many wars that proved to be completely disastrous. So at the end of the day, I did not agree with him politically, especially as he drove us towards the Iraq War, which was one of the worst mistakes in American foreign policy history, and in his later years seemed to be driving us towards a war with Iran, famously saying once, bomb, bomb, bomb Iran. Singing it, that's right. So it is a mixed, I don't know of a politician in this country that has a more mixed record than John McCain. A lot of people that have a terrible record, some that have a great record, but boy, McCain is as mixed as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, it's politically, there's that. And then personally, it's awful. There's a family right now preparing to lose and say goodbye forever to their dad, their grandpa, their husband. Sad.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's worth acknowledging that John McCain kind of represents this old guard of Republicans that still had some integrity and hadn't totally sold out their values for, I don't know, racism and fear and hate, because a lot of what he did, when he stepped in at the last minute for healthcare, is admirable, and it's I think it's really telling to see what a Republican does when they don't have to appeal to this kind of odd growing new Republican Party. And so I think it's worth acknowledging that, despite the fact that we don't necessarily agree with Republicans, and that's okay. I think he's one that we can respect in a way that we don't respect sort of this new brand of Republicanism.
I think that's exactly right, and I think Jules draws the exact right distinction. Because the older Republicans, and now a lot of them are retired, John Danforth, who, and I disagreed with these guys. John Danforth brought us Clarence Thomas, but he is honest, and he is a principled conservative. Alan Simpson, I disagree with him vehemently, and we've had fights on air about he wants to cut Social Security, but he is an honest man, and he is principled. He also thinks money in politics is disastrous. Jim Leach from back in the day, etc. There was an old school Republicans that you disagreed with, but they were honest actors. The new Republicans are all supplied by donor money, grew up on donor money, and so they have no principles whatsoever. They'll do whatever their donors ask them to do. Now, again, that leads us back to McCain. He definitely has some principles, and some principles I disagreed with vehemently.
Yeah.
But we also have to acknowledge that he's a mix of old and new, because he also voted for every gigantic tax cut for the rich, every gigantic war, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
And then to agree with Brooke, look, when you think about it from a personal level, if it was your family member, how do you spend the last couple of days or weeks? I mean, that is just heartbreaking beyond measure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an HBO documentary about him, and obviously, to some extent, I mean, they had access to him and his family. It's going to be it's going to err on the side of pro him, but it's a lot of interviews with people, and he did really seem to be of an earlier sort of politician that yes, they still are doing what their donors want, and yes, they still do horrible things. And in the area of war, that's just about if you're going to be bad in an area of issues, that's just about the worst area that you can be on. But he did seem to actually, at least on some level, care about the concept of America and the concept of what our government was about. It led him to some terrible positions. But I agree with you. You can still, like some people would hear you say he has integrity, and they'd say, no, here's a bad thing he did. He doesn't have integrity. Okay, some people, their brand doesn't involve shades of gray. It's all about, this guy's about to die. I can probably get a little bit of a claim by dunking on him right now. I think that's largely pathetic. I will say in advance, I'm going to do it when Donald Trump dies.
Oh,
so
gosh.
prepare for that in a few years. But there are very few people that actually warrant that. Scalia might have been one. I think I tweeted a few things. But when it comes to John McCain, he stood up for refugees largely, far more than most other Republicans. As you said, some campaign finance reform. And he didn't seem to want to see the Republican Party become the party of white supremacy and Islamophobia and homophobia and all of that. And it's part of being a mixed bag. And everybody has flaws. Everyone in a position of power, literally the politicians you love most, have made horrible decisions in office. And those decisions, because they have power, are consequential for people's lives. So you cannot simply go through life saying, if I can identify a bad thing that someone has done, then I don't have to think critically about anything that they've done.
Yeah, so let me complete the hat trick and agree with all three of you. So, guys, it is entirely possible to say that, yes, he did oftentimes serve the donors. But at the same time, he actually believed in this country and still had principles. And for the new brand of politicians, it's sometimes hard to say those things.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes they don't have principles. All they have is service of the donors. But John McCain, I would argue, did a lot of terrible things and acted in ways that were not always principled. For sure. At the same time, he wanted to clean up our government. He wanted to get money out of politics. Those are incredibly laudable goals. And at the end of the day, it is near impossible to argue, no matter how much you might dislike his policies or even him, that he wasn't a patriot. Just about the only person who could argue that in the country is Donald Trump. Yeah.
And by the way, I saw Jake Tapper tweeted out a section of an interview he'd done with him about a year ago, and he asked him, he said, hopefully we don't have to worry about this for another 50 years, but if you were to someday have to be remembered, what would you want to be remembered as? And in the span of one paragraph, he said some version of a man who's made many mistakes 4 or 5 times. But he said, but a guy who tried to serve his country.
Yeah. I think that's a good point.
I mean, I think it's worth looking at this as we don't have to agree with the Republican Party. We have to live with them. And I would rather they be more like John McCain than like Donald Trump.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, now we really got to take a break. We have so much more for you guys. The next story. What? You have to come back for the next story. I don't know where you'd be going. It's the internet anyway. But what do Republicans think about single payer? Fascinating. We'll have that for you when we come back.
You want Christopher Walken to say, nerd alert. Wow, wait a second, Doc. Whoa, wait a second, Doc. You mean to tell me this is a nerd alert? That's right, Marty. We've entered a nerd alert.
A lot of gifts to you.
Forgive me.
We are approaching the holiday gaming season, so with that, we should take a look at some of the great releases that are coming out. Some of the things that you're excited about, are they actually worth looking at? We're going to go up to Nintendo and see.
And that's what brings us here to YouTube Space LA, where we are going to take a look at what it would have looked like on set. Haha, space guns.
This is Frank Miller. I don't think I need to tell you how influential he is.
So Arya just murdered all of this house. Oh, Frank.
I keep my pants 20% less in audition sounds.
I would say for $1,000, we can give you the full body experience by putting you in a body bag and watching a movie. A lot of people would probably pay $1,000 for that. I wouldn't be
A lot of
surprised.
people have weird sex things that might enjoy this.
Oh, maybe it's for the adult industry.
What the Flick?
Hey, everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Everybody. Oh! Driving this bus. Here we go. Have at it. All right. Hey, everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Star Wars! I'm excited. As you can tell, sorry to the booth for yelling in the mic. Sorry, people at home. I'm super excited. But if you're going to complain that so many modern movies are the same, then this stands out.
No.
It's definitely not the
It
same.
affects your mood.
Oh, hello, Twin Peaks, episode 8. Boy, you guys owe us.
Oh boy.
We really did everyone a service and watched a movie called The Competition. And then he takes him on a steak out. He takes him on a steak out and gives him the burger, a couple of fries. But he's still interested. He's like, I think I may like you even more now. Right? To me, no, the narrative is fantastic. The way that it played out was wonderful. I'm arguing with Daenerys. I would have made a better queen.
All right, so what are your numbers then?
I give it a 9. I think it's the best American animated film this year. I give it a 7.
My number's 10. Best movie of the year.
I'm not going to half measure it. It's a 10.
Yay!
More than 50 people today have come forward claiming responsibility for the murder of the Black Dahlia. I don't understand who these people are. Why do you want this notoriety? It wasn't an accident. It wasn't an opportunistic killing. It was absolutely methodical and totally plotted out. You know, all the different sorts of travelers that they would apprehend.
Yeah, he was called the Zodiac Killer is because when he said in his note, he said, "This is the Zodiac speaking." They'll cut leather. Like a lot of psychopaths will.
My favorite thing you've ever seen.
They'll first start off by cutting leather because they want to feel how it feels to cut leather, and to cut human flesh, and then they move gradually into more and more dangerous things. They started conspiring to eat them.
2 other people died on this trip, and then once they sort of ripped the Band-Aid off where they were able to eat Patrick Dolan and live with themselves, and also survive.
That's what they call frontier justice.
Mhm.
People would get murdered all the time, and then they would have to bring someone in. They would ask what happened. They're like, "Oh, you insulted that guy? Okay, yeah, he insulted him, so I guess he deserved to die."
I feel like I could run, like, so far. I feel like I could run a marathon, minimum. You ever feel that way, man?
Hey, guys.
Hey! I gotta go.
How much did she have to drink today on the show?
I don't know. She can't hold her liquor, so I gave her Kool-Aid.
Oh. Wow. To the upside, we have Kool-Aid. I love Kool-Aid. Happy Half Hour on Fridays. We'll give you good news and good booze.
Alright, back on the Young Turks. We got comments for you guys. YouTube Super Chat. Perel77 writes in, "Hi, Jake. My name is Matthew. Matthew.
Matthew.
Oh, just Matthew.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how you
Weird
say
thing
that.
is it says Jason. I don't know why he's pronouncing it that way.
Obviously, it's not spelled with an EW at the end, okay?
Yeah.
I just want to be clear.
Oh, man.
Okay? And he's likely French. I'm from Montreal, Canada, so it's probably Matthew. Okay?
I'll go with that.
question.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, don't worry, he's not watching anymore, so.
Thank you for using YouTube Super Chat and supporting the show. Okay, now that Trump's money man has immunity and knows all the dealings, they're going after Trump's money. I just ask one thing of you when it happens. Elbow from the top rope. Can do. I'm telling you, Edwin, I'm gonna put you on it too. I was talking to Craig in one of the earlier shows. We got to build a ring in here so I could jump off the top rope. The day we get Trump, the elbow from the sky. Okay, that day is going to be glorious. If you missed the Young Turks on that day, have you really lived?
Really lit.
Yeah, so make sure you're watching in 2024.
Oh my God. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Okay, trust me, it's not going to happen. Believe me. Anyway, go to Twitter here. That boy's hell on turlets writes in. Jake, what's the over-under on Trump resigning via Twitter? Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I actually think that could happen, right?
Yeah.
He would have to actually be forced out of office, and then we would get a tweet the next day. Like, I did this.
Yeah.
Too good for this.
Yeah, I didn't want it
We
anyway.
didn't want to do this.
Yeah.
Today, I'm deciding, right?
Right. I decided prison was better anyway. But it's okay. I'm going to a very strong prison. Oh, that would be awesome.
That's really good.
Okay, Stop writes in, last one here. With your app, I was able to become a member. Already love you. Okay. Credit cards are not that common in Germany. Fascinating. I didn't know that. Okay. Guten Tag, by the way. Been catching up with the post game in old school with all the stories, insight, and joy. It's the whole picture. So glad to see TYT thrive. Hashtag too strong. Hashtag progressives, etc. Well, Stop. Thank you. That is a wonderful thing to say. And you guys can all enjoy that too. TYT.com/join and become a member. And I don't know anyone who watches the post games in old school and goes, not interesting. So I think that you'll love them. On a recent one, we found out all about Brooke's life, although we're in part one.
We're in part one.
Next time we're going to do part two.
It's a 10-parter.
And we're going year by year.
Yeah. And I want to remind all of you guys that if ever there was a time to wear this, it is now. So let's look at graphic one more time. ShopTYT.com, which is a sponsor, by the way, of Old School. I love to joke about that.
You were able to land them, huh?
Yeah. It was tough. They're tough over at ShopTYT.com. And by the way, every time I wear these, including yesterday when I wore it, I didn't know about Weisselberg, but what I did know from Cohen was enough, and I wore that yesterday. And every time people were like, yeah.
I like that it could be his hair. It also looks like an orange slug.
Yeah. It works on
I
a lot
believe
of
that is
levels.
what his hair is.
There you go. Okay, pretty interesting news here. This week has been full of incredibly positive polling having to do with Medicare for All, and we're going to close out a week with perhaps the most amazing, fascinating results of all. And this comes from a new Reuters Ipsos poll, found that 51.9% of Republicans would embrace a Medicare for All policy. And also, 84.5% of Democrats. That's obviously good. But that is a majority of Republicans. And I feel like nobody is actually prepared for that sort of thing. And again, as we always say when these sorts of polls come out, this is before the case has even really been made. I mean, you've had a few politicians, obviously, during the last primary, you had Bernie Sanders, and you're going to see a lot more of it. But most people still have not heard anything other than fear-mongering and propaganda coming from places like Fox News and Breitbart.
And CNN, by the way.
Well, of course, yes. And look, Jake Tapper obviously did his as much as he could over the past week. Now, at the same time, understand that while all this polling is going on, 2/3 of Democratic nominees across 41 battleground districts for U.S. House seats also want to expand the government's role in healthcare. About a dozen support Medicare for All or a single-payer system. But what's most interesting was actually noticed by Jeff Stein of the Washington Post, who said that if that Reuters poll is correct, then there's a higher percentage of GOP voters that support Medicare for All than Democratic senators.
Oh, that's devastating. So, but great credit to Jeff Stein because he nailed it. That's exactly right, and that tells you everything you need to know about what's wrong with the system. And when I call the establishment, a lot of people call the establishment. And so, what is that? That's not only the Republican Party, but it's also the Democratic establishment and a lot of mainstream news. Look, here we do nuance. It's not a black and white world. So Jeff Stein from the Washington Post makes a great point, and that's part of mainstream media. CNN has had some positive reports recently. We've given them credit for that. On Medicare for All, they've been terrible. And it's not because they're bad people. It's because groupthink in the establishment is no way, not practical, going to cost too much. But wait a minute, we showed you over and over again it actually saves money. Not only that, look at how obvious it is. The rest of the developed world all has single payer. They all pay less than us. Countries like Canada pay half of what we pay for healthcare. Half. Our system is not practical. Our system is too expensive. And yet, almost everyone on cable news, everyone in the Republican Party in terms of official politicians, and unfortunately, a huge chunk of the Democratic Party goes, no, we don't care what the American people have to say. In fact, we'll pretend they're against it, even though every poll shows they are. This one, it used to be at 60%. It's now at 70% of Americans saying, that's it, we want Medicare for all. And even in Mark Meadows' district, he's the leader of the Freedom Caucus, the most conservative faction there is. They went and polled there. People are like, yeah, no, Republicans are like, yep, interested in Medicare for all.
Yeah.
I'll quote one guy. He said about the government and healthcare, he said, either leave me alone 100% or pay for 100%. And what I hear from every candidate that we talk to on Rebel headquarters is, whether they're talking to Democrats, Republicans, or Independents, when they go door knocking or when they make phone calls, they're all like, we're drowning in this healthcare bills. It's killing us literally, and we can't afford it. We can't afford the regular payments, and God help us if we get sick. We've terrorized our own country because no one has any kind of security when it comes to health, and they're tired of it. And I'll go even further. That's it. It's time to get past Obamacare. So Obamacare was better than the old horrible system, horrible, right? But it left private insurance in charge, and it did not control costs, and those costs are now killing us. And so those costs are now allowing Republicans to say, oh, you see that the liberal position gave you more cost. Hell no! Hell no, Medicare for All would save us a ton of money. It's time to go right now. And if the folks on cable news, etc., and in Washington wonder why people don't like them and don't trust them, well, when you frame things in a way that is the exact opposite of what the American people want, that's why they don't trust you. It's not that complicated.
Voters have for so long allowed politicians to get away with making decisions that go against not only their best interests, but what they want and what they say they want. They just let them get away with that. Like, oh, it's okay, I'm still going to vote for him because this is who we voted for before. And a good thing that has come out of the Trump era is that's changing. It's happening. People are making decisions based on what politician will do what they're asking them to do, and not just get all these votes and then, get in office and do just what works best for them. And things like this is not the only issue, but things like this matter, as they're sitting with their very well taken care of health care.
Real quick point on that. Trump is, a lot of the establishment thinks Trump was the end of populism. That he's a populist. Now, we all know he's a fake populist. And that once we get him out of office, he'll be over, right? No. He's the beginning of populism. We just started in the wrong direction. We're going to straighten it out. And you know what populism is? At the end of the day, it is doing what the popular will is. There's another word for that. It's called democracy.
I don't trust it.
Yeah, fair.
Why don't we take another break? We've gone a little bit far into this hour. But when we come back, we've got an amazing story. A find from the weeks leading up to the last election that now, with what we know from this past week, takes on a whole new meaning.
All right, we'll be right back. We get animated about this. Yes, we're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. If Senator Sanders, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to ask you a policy question. Hey, how dare you? That's the problem. You're the problem. Don't ever attack the Republicans. Wait, no. This is the liberal media. No. These are all establishment guys. They love the system as it is. They're all enormously rich off the system that exists. For us, this system isn't working. So what this campaign is about is trying to create an economy that works not only for the people on top, but works for all Americans.
So what's happening in the Democratic Party is what used to happen in the general election. We would have a person who represented workers and the people and the voters, and then the Republicans would represent business, corporations, and Wall Street. That's happening all inside the Democratic Party this time.
We're going to rock the vote. We're going to be counter-establishment. We're going to tell people the truth to the best of our abilities, and we're going to keep it real with them.
Corey, did you hear the news? Yeah. You know what we have to do, right? Let's do it.
And I wouldn't lose any votes, okay? Like the credit.
Hey, bud, you still there? Yeah, I had the dream again. Yeah. I was in the rain this time. It was pretty cute.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Damage Report, another week of the news. I am John Idarola, and we've got a doozy of a show for you. My God, is DC up its own ass today. we have put someone into power in our country who's so crazy, they have finally out-crazied North Korea.
The U.S. is the only country in the world that isn't part of the Paris Climate Accord.
Yesterday, Donald Trump did exactly what he told us. He pulled the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear accords.
People call the police on black people. People are fearful of black humans. There is no more to the story than racism.
I was going to say we've been dealing with the issue of lead poisoning in this country, but that would imply that we're really doing something. We have an issue with lead poisoning, and it continues. So 60 people are now dead. Some of them grandmothers, many of them children. The silence of politicians on both sides of the aisle. Just about only Bernie Sanders, maybe Tulsi Gabbard, and a few others have actually been critical of what happened there. And the rest are cowards hiding behind silence, refusing to admit what happened yesterday.
We have to be able to accept that we do things wrong in this country. You can fix and change things, make things even.
What's great about our country, and this is a great example of it, is everybody's pissed off. It is the damage report, and it's all about the threats facing us each day. When something's relevant, and it's hot, and it's in the news, you're not supposed to talk about it. Should we start talking about it now?
All right, everybody, good afternoon. Let's answer some questions truthfully for a change.
Why must you criticize in such personal terms?
Because he is a dick. Here's a list of what the president watches every day. Cartoons, Fox and Friends cartoons.
You said President takes the issue of violence against women seriously.
Yes, but in my defense, that was a joke. To keep women safe, we've made a strict policy of hiring very few of them. If you want the truth, you probably can't handle the truth.
Back on the Young Turks, let's read some comments for you guys. The Young Scientist writes in, and we already like you. Yes, just use my TYT activist merch credit to get a free impeach t-shirt. Membership pays. That's awesome. I love that.
Awesome.
So if you guys don't know, we lowered the price of the membership to $4.99. Okay. And so we want to make it more affordable for a lot of folks, people going to college, limited incomes, etc. And so we hope you take advantage of that. But we still have the $10 membership, and a lot of you guys stayed in that. We super appreciate that because that allows us to be independent media, but there's also extra perks. And there's some new ones that are going to be announced soon, but one of them is if you're what we call an activist, you get these credits, and he used it to buy the MP shirt. That's how it's supposed to work, so great job, thank you. And show them the MP shirt one more time. Come on, who doesn't love this MP shirt? Okay, shoptyt.com. If you're an activist, obviously, look into using your credits there.
And one of the perks that we actually do is we've done a series of these online town halls with members where one of us, either Jake or myself or Anna or something, will do like a web chat with a bunch of the members. And I did one a few weeks ago, and it was a lot of fun. I want to do more of them. So,
yeah, I love doing
those. Great questions.
Yeah, because then we get to see you too, because it's like a video chat, and you get to interact with us. Although now that I'm thinking about it, I don't understand how this credit works. I never understand anything about Shop TYT. Because if you sign up and pay $5 more and get a $25 T-shirt, I think that we might not be that good at business.
You're like, wait a minute now. So hurry up. Where's your credits? Hurry.
We're the Trump stakes of online media.
Oh, boy. That hurts. All right. Okay. Last couple of comments here. Navinix. Oh, by the way, to sign up, obviously, you guys know, tyt.com/join. Navinix writes in, my first time watching Jules. He's making great points.
Oh, my goodness.
Also, shout out to my girl, Brooke on air.
Oh,
okay.
You can see them both on the Damage Report all the time.
That's right.
Watch the Damage Report, which is available as a podcast right now.
So, which leads me to, by the way, we changed the URL on this one, tyt.com/app, okay, to get it either the iTunes version, or now it's on the Google Play Store as well, the Android version, so tyt.com/app. And yes, earlier this week we announced that the Damage Report is now a podcast that you could get on our app, and so is Anna's show, No Filter, so don't miss those either. Last one, YouTube Super Chat, Existential Dread says, what a perfect panel. Why, thank you. We appreciate it. And it has a green heart. Never even seen a green heart before.
What a perfect comment. Guys, what a perfect life.
All right.
Okay. I've got a perfect story for you now. Okay, I'm gonna intro this perfectly. Shit, I messed it up. Okay. We now know that the National Enquirer coordinated with Donald Trump and Michael Cohen, allegedly, to buy and bury stories of Donald Trump's alleged affairs in the weeks leading up to the 2016 election. And so now that we know that, looking back at some of the stories the National Enquirer ran, some of their magazine covers from that period actually take on a very new meaning. So I want to focus on one. This is from October 31st, 2016. This is 1 week before the election. Let's bring this up, and hopefully you'll be able to read these. So, look, obviously the cover's about Hillary Clinton. Her hitman tells all, which is interesting. You should read it. The hitman knows a lot. And that was what they were doing month after month.
Yeah, it's obviously she has an assassin, but we're moving.
Yeah, she has an assassin. It's fine. But what's interesting is the specific things that Hillary Clinton supposedly did. So, bribe reporters to bury the truth, which is interesting, but also specifically, you see on the right, hide her sleazy affairs and pay hush money, literal hush money, to hookers. And this is after they have spent a couple of months buying up these stories, allowing hush money to be spent, not on hookers, obviously, but on mistresses, effectively.
Well, we don't know yet. We don't know.
We don't know. For
She's just doing them
we don't.
exact
Yeah,
thing.
I'll curve it.
It's like, okay, we're going to pay you off.
Yeah.
Do all this for you, hide this for you, and then we're going to flip it. We're going to tell the story and blame it on somebody else.
No. Here's what I love most of all about this. Because on this show, we obsessively talk about what conservatives do nonstop is projection. Whatever it is that they do, they say liberals want to do. Oh, liberals want to control your life. You're in our womb. Okay, I don't know. Oh, the liberals with Obamacare want to get between you and your doctor. No, you want to get between us and our doctor on the issue of choice. The liberals are for big government. Let's go invade a country with our giant military, and we need a bigger defense budget, which is the largest military project that is. Liberals get offended so easily. I can't believe somebody said happy holidays to me, right? And the list goes
The
on.
cups, the Starbucks cups.
Hey, that's legitimate. Come on, that.
I need a stage space from Starbucks. Okay. But, I mean, here it is. Projection 101. So they charge Hillary Clinton with paying hush money to mistresses, what Donald Trump did. Hide her sleazy affairs, what Donald Trump did. Bribe reporters to bury the truth. Donald Trump worked with this reporter in this magazine to bury the truth and to tell you the exact opposite. And then destroying the victims by attacking them, and the list goes on and on. This is what Republicans do. I want you to get it in your head. Everything they feel, they project onto liberals. So when you hear them talking about liberals, understand that they're actually talking about what they think. And so the National Enquirer ran story after story after story against Hillary Clinton.
Well, let's bring up the next
Like
graphic.
this
You'll see.
line, just right there.
Yeah, we're going to get to that line too. But John's right.
Bring this up.
Okay.
Not all of them, by the way.
Right.
Man, some of those pictures are rough. Did you know that she actually died? As they predicted she would.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that, right? So there you see all those covers before the election. And unfortunately, a lot of people believe in conspiracy theories. So, like, now that it's online and it is affecting politics, people are animated about it. But remember, people are buying National Enquirer magazines for decades. And what is it? Pure conspiracy theory trash. Whether it's against Hillary Clinton or whether it's talking about the aliens that were invading from Mars and they've been doing lizard people before Alex Jones ever knew what they were.
To be fair, Bat Boy.
Well,
that's right.
That was Weekly World News, but that was under the umbrella of what is the name of the
American?
Yeah, that was one of their
American Media Corporation.
Yeah.
Yes, the same company.
They just in that picture, they gave her cancer. They gave her. They photoshopped a picture and added 100 pounds on her. They gave her strokes.
Yeah.
Said she had
but unfortunately,
jail.
She's doing great, surprisingly.
Yeah, and so I wanted to build on that because look, guys, let's keep it real. Some on the left started to believe it. And that's how these conspiracies work. They spread like poison. And I remember the day that I said she did not have a brain aneurysm, people flipped out. The right wing flipped out, but some on the left were mad. They're like, how could you say that when it's obvious? Obvious how? They're like, look at her performance in the debates. I'm like, did you watch the debates? Because there was someone with mental damage in the debates, and it wasn't Hillary Clinton. So
yeah, but they only let Hugh Hewitt ask one question.
People usually find out about a lot of devastating brain aneurysms because they die.
Yeah, that seems to be common to that type of condition.
And that's the amazing thing about conspiracy theories. Sorry, John.
They never make sense.
Not only do they not make sense, no matter how much they're disproven, it doesn't matter. She was supposed to, according to these headlines, she was supposed to die within 6 months, which was now a couple of years ago. But she's not dead. And people are like, no, still, National Enquirer's got to figure it out. Alex Jones told you that Obama was going to lock up everybody in FEMA camps. Where are the FEMA camps? And yet
We're
people are like,
all in a big FEMA camp.
right? But they never, no matter how much you disprove them, you can't get knuckleheads to stop believing them.
Even if it's something like not 6 months from now, you'll forget about it in 6 months, but she gained 100 pounds. Okay, she's on the TV every day while this is going. I'm just looking at her right now. And I'm glad that you pointed out the fake news thing, because of course it has always existed. And we focus on fake news, which is designed almost purely to influence elections or social whatever. But the oldest reason for fake news is to make money, because if you write exciting headlines, people will buy it. And they don't care if it's true or if it's false. When it comes to this, I don't think that the National Enquirer has hated Hillary Clinton forever. I don't think that they cared at all that it was Hillary Clinton. If it hadn't been Hillary Clinton, if it had been Martin O'Malley, then Martin O'Malley would have been an alcoholic, and he would have been cavorting with Venusians and stuff like that. So it doesn't really have anything to do with her. And trust that in the next cycle, whoever it is, if it's Bernie or if it's Kamala Harris or whoever, they'll have headlines like this. And so you need to be prepared for fake news, both in its online forms and in forms like this. Like when they say that a person's about to die, whatever it is, if it feels really good and really right, question it just a little bit if they're getting paid to tell you this stuff. Because here is the amazing thing. I talked about this with Lori Penny on the Damage Report this week. The easiest thing in the world is for someone in media to look out at an audience or a potential audience and say, what do they want to hear? And if you can be paid by telling them that, a lot of people have no integrity. They have no morals. They will do that. It's not just the National Enquirer.
And in this
They're
case,
the worst, maybe.
But in this case, they made extra deals on top with Donald Trump, which now David Pecker, who ran the company, has admitted, gotten immunity, testified, and presumably testified against Donald Trump, that yes, we were helping him, ironically, rig the election.
But I want to be clear, like the National Enquirer, a lot of people look at this and say, I know that this isn't true. But there are other outlets that have sort of the veneer of credibility. Like, I mean, Breitbart, I guess, isn't one of those or whatever, but Fox News, like Tucker Carlson is talking about the white genocide in South Africa, and a lot of people believe, oh, that's a legitimate outlet, but they're still doing the same thing, and largely for the same reason.
And finally, I want to get back to Brooke's point about this line.
Okay. Hillary Clinton is a secret sex freak who paid fixers to set up illicit romps with both men and women.
Woo! No. Think about it, guys. If everything else is projection.
Oh, so I knew you were going to go there.
No. I'm serious. It says fixers. And in another headline, they're like, oh, yeah, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton has a Mr. Fix-It, they said in the article. Gee, I wonder who has a Mr. Fix-It, who arranged for a meeting with someone of the same gender, and it involved being in a movie theater, and they had a lot of details. And everything else is projection. We don't need it, and I don't care, right? But it does make you kind of go, interesting.
Yeah.
If every other lie was the exact opposite of the truth, right?
You're just the worst.
I'm not saying anything. I haven't said a word.
I'm not saying right.
Okay. Okay, let's do the last story real quick.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Okay. I did not think that we were going to get that.
Well, I'm glad we are, though.
Donald Trump's attacks earlier this week against his own Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, actually led to the AG putting out a statement in defense of himself in the way that he is running that department. So I want to run quickly through this timeline. So it started off with Donald Trump, both in Twitter and also on Fox News attacking him. Here he is on Fox News.
Even my enemies say that Jeff Sessions should have told you that he was going to recuse himself, and then you wouldn't have put him in. He took the job, and then he said, I'm going to recuse myself. I said, what kind of a man is this?
And he stresses that he only wanted him for loyalty, and why isn't he protecting me? He is admitting that he needs protection.
Yep,
and it doesn't seem he's too stupid to understand that. But because they can't simply call each other, he goes on Fox News, and the AG has to put out a statement, in part saying, while I am Attorney General, the actions of the Department of Justice will not be improperly influenced by political considerations. I demand the highest standards, and when they are not met, I take action. I don't really trust any of that, but that's his response to Donald Trump. Is that going to be the end of it? Of course, that's not going to be the end of it, and Donald Trump has kept up his pressure on the AG after that, including with these statements. He actually quotes part of what Jeff Sessions said, quote, Department of Justice will not be improperly influenced by political considerations. Jeff, this is great. What everyone wants. So look into all the corruption on the other side, including deleted emails, Comey lies and leaks, Mueller conflicts, blah, 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 the stuff you hear about on Hannity every night. Let's see, he goes on, just goes on the next one. Just goes on Christopher Steele, the Clinton Foundation, aliens from Mars, illegal surveillance, Russian collusion by Dems, because Russian collusion doesn't exist except by the Dems, and so much more. Open up the papers and documents without redaction. Come on, Jeff, you can do it. The country is waiting.
Guys, nobody is saying this to him. If you have watched, I'll give you just three Law and Order episodes. Okay, it doesn't take anything, just three Law and Order episodes. You know that if you essentially worked for the campaign, you cannot lead an investigation into it. That's not. Nobody is saying he shouldn't have recused. Nobody is saying that. I haven't seen I've seen one person say that.
I would assume.
Yeah. So even sycophants like Lindsey Graham. So Lindsey Graham today, because he's just the worst of the worst, flipped and was like, well, I mean, this is untenable with Sessions and Trump fighting all the time, so I guess Jeff should consider stepping down. Oh, you're the worst. You're the worst. But even he said, well, I mean, he should have recused himself. To Brooks' point, he's like he can't quite get him to say he shouldn't have recused himself because Lindsey Graham was a lawyer, and he said like any lawyer would know you have to recuse yourself. But okay, but I have to kiss Donald Trump's ass because I really want us to invade Iran. So, but Sessions should step down. So there are people who are trying to protect him politically, like Lindsey Graham, Sean Hannity, other guys like Gates, the Republican congressman, who will say anything for him. But overall, everyone, including most of the Republicans, go, no, of course he should have recused himself. Not only was he part of the campaign, he lied about meeting with the Russians in his testimony to Congress. Jeff Sessions did. That's part of the reason why he did recuse himself.
Yeah. Oh, no, I just wanted to say, I want to steal a line from Jordan Uhl and say, if Trump does fire Jeff Sessions, please don't start a GoFundMe for Jeff Sessions.
Right.
That's awesome. The last thing that I want to point out here that's important. In the tweet that John read to you guys, he quotes Sessions saying, I will not be improperly influenced by politics. Then he says, that's great. Then he says, investigate the other side. Which is...
Let me influence you.
Influence you based on politics. He literally says, investigate the other side. Yeah. The other side is not something... Other than politics, he means the other side of politics, the Democrats.
And the thing is, there was a period where the IRS supposedly being unfair to conservative organizations was all the proof you needed as a conservative, that the entire government under the Democrats was systematically biased against conservatives. Eventually we found out that it wasn't actually going on. They were being super hard on libs too. That was all it took. Here you have the president saying it. I have a long list of political enemies, or at least people that Hannity says are my political enemies. I don't really know who they are because I don't do the research, but I want you to look into every single one of them. Imagine if Barack Obama had done that. Here are all the nonprofits and all the PACs on the conservative side that I want you to go after, and he was like adding Holder on Twitter. Can you imagine how their heads would have exploded? But again, we get used to this stuff, and if there's obstruction of justice, but it's in public, we assume, I guess he's just, being weird on Twitter.
You're so right, John. I forgot about the context of the IRS. The IRS investigation, they claimed the IRS looked into a couple of conservative groups. We found out later they'd actually looked into more liberal groups. But IRS, and they were not wrong to look into those groups. They had to actually do an investigation. It was perfectly normal. And the conservatives lost it. Here, the president is saying, I want you to go after my political opponents, the other side. I want you to target him. And he's saying it in public. If Obama had told Holder, I want you to attack Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and all my political opponents, and not just attack them politically, but prosecute them.
Yeah.
And here, the MAGA guys are like, yeah, that's right. The government should do political investigations of their opponents. That makes sense in a democracy.
How dare you? They are CAG now.
Is that right? What is CAG?
Oh, yeah.
America Great.
Oh, no.
CAG.
Okay. Just when you thought it can't get any sadder. Another level of sadness. Okay.
They gotta buy all new hats now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, maybe that's why they did it.
No.
Yeah. More business for China. Okay. We gotta go. Thank you guys. We got a whole new power panel coming up, kind of. When we return, those surprises are always fun. Who will be next? And we still remember, we have so many great stories, but also at the very end of the show, a conspiracy theory so insane, it's the most unbelievable thing I've ever heard. It makes the National Enquirer blush. All right, we'll be right back.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Hassan D. Piker and on Twitter at Hassan the Hun. And this has been The Breakdown. Was that good, guys?
Okay. Not enough hashtag use. Hashtag abs, hashtag model, hashtag woke bay.
Hashtag one black friend.
I'm thinking more rings.
I got him here.
You need more accessories.
Way more accessories.
I don't know where to put them. Come on, throw these on. Woke bay, not sleep bay.
More sexy, too.
When's the last time you posted on Instagram? Too long. Come on, man. No, you need to post at least once an hour. What's the outfit of the day today? Is this what you're going with? No. We need more accessories. We need.
This doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't. For your gay audience, man.
Yeah, the gays love you, man.
Okay. What else? What else do I need to do?
You haven't appropriated a culture in a week.
Do we have like a kimono or something?
Damn, that looks good on you, dude.
Perfect. How many rings you got on? Do we have any more?
I got 3 more.
Yeah, can we get more rings on this?
And when you're done, kiss the ring. Look at the camera. Kiss the ring. Maybe like a little wink.
Islam's role in terrorism and all the Huffington Post articles were doing well. I was in.
How many likes did our last outfit of the day picture have?
Only like 100,000.
So I think that's where your focus needs to be. I hear you on all the blah 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 social issue. We need to focus on followers.
Kids in Yemen.
We don't care if you sleep at night.
Dab, dab.
Okay, dab. There you go.
More.
Talk about yourself more.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, be more into it.
Instagram. It's important for me. Americans losing access to healthcare coverage.
I hear you. Attack Tommy more.
I've done it. So many. She shoots out of her living room now. It's like punching down now.
We're okay with that. It helps the brand.
We made you. We got you verified.
You're nothing
Come
without
on.
us.
So I don't know what else I need to do here.
Dude, just take off that shirt.
That's exactly why Tommy Lauren is stupid. I hate you. I'm Hassan Piker. Follow me on Instagram.
Hashtag woke bay.
Hashtag woke bay. Please follow me.
All right, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power.
Look at this battle. We're talking about power.
It's like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong. We spun a revolution. Yes, another one. Aren't you excited? Wow. Some of the best writers in the country are right there on this panel, with the obvious exception of John Irola.
Let's not so quickly discount Harry Potter fanfiction.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
You know, I can't get over the fact that Donald Trump already has lower numbers than George Bush did after Katrina.
We have that pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care. Their legislation is always accompanied by some kind of moral judgment, right? This idea that poverty is a choice. What ran me away from Christianity was judgment and condemnation.
Assaulting peaceful protesters in North Dakota, crazier than bombing Yemen, crazier than bombing Syria so much they ran out of bombs. You mean crazier than funding ISIS and trying to knock off Assad at the same time?
Amazing footage came out today of a 5-year-old child being miraculously pulled from rubble in Aleppo. A miracle and a reminder of the horror of that conflict is still present every single day.
My name is Sophie Tsai, and I'm a video editor and producer at TYC. I edit Facebook Originals, Aggressive Progressives, Top Trigger, but I also work on Main Show. I produce The Happy Half Hour. I think my happiest moment is spending time with my coworkers outside of work, hanging out with them and getting to know what they like to do or what movies they like to watch and what hobbies they have. My hobby is playing with my dog and going out to eat. I think that's my favorite thing to do on the weekends.
as promised, Francesca Fiorentini presenting. Ida Rodriguez is back. Always great to have her. And Matt Kirshen for the first time.
Hey, how's it going?
At least with me on the power panel.
It's the first time in this room. Thanks for having me.
All right, excellent. So Matt, by the way, is a writer for the Jim Jeffries Show on Comedy Central, which I did a tiny little appearance on.
You did. You cameoed on it for us. Or rather, we took a completely legitimate news clip that you were involved in that was in no way set up and scripted, and we dropped it onto the show and commented on it. So that's
right. That's what.
Yeah. So it was, that's what it was. Everyone, if you watched that, that was the news, straight up.
They destroyed you? Were you destroyed, Jake?
I wasn't told that I was destroyed, but it is possible. I don't know. Was I destroyed?
No. You did us a solid. We had a bit of nonsense where we were trying to persuade Donald Trump that there was a fictional country with a prime minister that he should really target it as his new enemy.
Mm.
And then you recorded a news piece explaining how serious his situation was.
Yes.
That was entirely legitimate news that we definitely
Good, nice.
Yeah. But by the way, there's some chance it's true.
real country. If you're watching this right now, President Trump, this is a real country and a serious thing, and you need to deal with it.
Okay, by the way, you should also check out Matt's podcast, Probably Science. You can get it at probablyscience.com. But Ida is funnyida.com, but also Hollywood Improv, September 22nd?
Yes, at 8 o'clock p.m.
Okay, don't miss it. All right, I got two quick tweets for you guys, and then Francesca's going to take it away. We got some great stories for you guys, and they're both fun. CompuFox writes in about Peter Pecker, who was the guy who turned in, it's actually David Pecker, but that's okay, from American Media Incorporated, that's National Enquirer, now turned on Donald Trump. He writes that Peter Pecker picked a pack of POTUS pickles. That's all.
He's got a whole pack? I know.
And Dave from C1... 37. I had trouble reading numbers there. That was great. He said they had to change it from MAGA, and we were talking about this, of course, at the end of the last segment, because MAGA stands for My Attorney Got Arrested. Which is awesome.
That's great. That was
yes. All right. Francesca,
what do we got? I'm not with her. That is what indicted California Congressman Duncan Hunter told Fox News about his wife when asked about the couple's corruption charges. The pair, of course, face 60 charges related to misuse of $250,000 in campaign money, part of which was used to purchase an airline ticket for a bunny rabbit. Other charges,
of course it was.
Allegations are that Hunter called his wife when he wanted to buy some Hawaii shorts, and that she told him to purchase them at the pro shop of a golf club, so they could be listed as golf balls for the Wounded Warriors Project, a veterans charity. Hunter, of course, denied that accusation, but on Fox News, and this is the story, this is how he defended himself when talking about his wife and his allegations.
My campaign did make mistakes. There was money spent on things, not by me, but by the campaign.
Your wife handled a lot of the family expenses and the campaign finances. So are you saying that it's more her fault than your fault?
Well, I'm saying when I went to Iraq in 2003, the first time I gave her power of attorney, and she handled my finances throughout my entire military career, and that continued on when I got into Congress, because I'm gone 5 days a week, I'm home for 2. So, and she was also the campaign manager. So whatever she did on that'll be looked at too, I'm sure. But I didn't do it.
B-words, be crazy. All right, what do we make of this?
That's crazy. I've never seen someone throw their wife under a bus on national TV that hard. Yeah. It wasn't like a little nudge. It was like, here you go. He's like, whatever it was, I didn't do it, but you should talk to my wife.
Also, remember Iraq? Like, Iraq was like, people say it was not a success, it was a waste of about $3 trillion, but actually, like, I'm a war hero. Let's talk about my war hero shit, remember? And I had no idea. Like, when you're in Iraq, did I mention I was in Iraq? I think that was his whole...
That was great.
The whole thing was like, I'm a decorated war hero. Maybe I'm not decorated, but... and my wife handled everything, and don't ask me about it. And they're going to definitely ask her some questions. Honey?
Like, I don't know how able we are to replay just that little bit of the clip, but if you watch it again, just that little moment where the Fox anchor just has to tell herself, stay on track, this is the Republican guy. You see that little bit of her just die inside at that moment where she's just like, it's the wife, and I'm not okay with this, but I have to smile and be okay with this. I want to know, what are these wounded warriors doing with golf balls?
He has them in his.
That's my other question.
He has them in his mouth. That's why he talks like that. But you know what I thought was interesting? I used to watch the show Lie to Me, and it tells you about the behaviors of people when they're lying. You see all the it's like this, and then
all right, be cool.
But you know
the
what's
rules.
funny? Such a California Republican. They spend the money on a rabbit. That is such a California thing. That's what they do here. You know what I mean?
Well, he did say in this interview that all these expenses were fundraising. I don't know how he funds. Maybe he just shows up with a rabbit. Vote for me. Here's a rabbit.
Maybe the shorts were for his rabbit. Like the Hawaiian shorts for the rabbit. I don't know. Somehow this is related to Veterans Affairs. It's totally ridiculous. The other thing I wanted to play for you all because part of the allegations is that actually Hunter said some disparaging words about the Navy, and he served in the Navy. So I want to play that clip for you.
What about the effing Navy comment that you heard Ed talk about? Did you ever say that?
Martha, I would have to say that I probably said that and many other things like that. I was in the Marine Corps for quite a while. I love the Navy. I love the Marine Corps and all the other services. My dad was in the Army. My little brother was in the Army. I might talk trash about the Army every now and then too, but it's usually in good fun. It's all in good fun.
All right, so that was with regard to the $15,000 trip to Italy with your family, which your wife called in an email the best family vacation ever, which makes it sound like it's not business.
Now, I paid for the trip to Hawaii, except for when I was there on my own vacation, I wanted to call up the Navy and say, let me tour the base there.
Okay, so he said Hawaii, she said Italy. The actual context is that he said effing Navy because he wanted to use a tour of a naval base in Italy as a cover for an actual just family vacation. He was going to also use campaign finance money to pay for.
Yeah, and so he wanted to be able to say, no, it's okay. I went to go see the Navy, and because I'm such a patriot. Right. And the Navy told him, sorry, there's nothing to see. The base is not open for Congress. But they would have been accommodating. They just didn't have anything for him to see.
So that's why he said F the Navy?
Yeah, that's why he's like, oh, God damn it, I wanted to do the scam and take the $15,000 and steal it from my campaign. F the Navy. And then he did not say it in good nature, like, oh, hey, I'm a Marine.
I love the Navy, just like I love my wife, and F both of them.
And you know what? He doubled down on there, and he was like, yeah, I said it. You know what I mean?
I think I've solved the problem. I think I've cracked it. I think he shows up there with a rabbit and then tells them, if you don't give me money to my campaign, my wife will murder this rabbit. She's a monster. I can't control her. She does stuff against my will.
No,
yeah. I have a different theory. I'll get to that in a second.
I think the most ridiculous thing about this, the final clip of this, is that, you know, his excuse, right, essentially is both of them have not pleaded, they've pleaded innocence, right? They say this is absolutely false, and actually it's just a hit job. It's part of the Democrats, the DNC, deep state, whatever, and it doesn't, this argument as if it looked good on Trump, but because Trump has the language capacity of a 3-year-old, it's like, let's give it to him. But watch how it comes off on Duncan Hunter, this congressman.
This is pure politics, and the prosecutors can make an indictment read like a scandalous novel if they want to. They've had a year and a half to do this. There's no way for me now to go out and be able to talk to my people or get this done in court. My prosecutor and the acting U.S. attorney that issued the court orders to search my house, my office, they had just attended a Hillary Clinton fundraiser with another U.S. attorney out of here in San Diego.
Well, I think Congressman, everybody, let me just jump in for a moment.
The Clinton Foundation strikes again.
Yeah. You know what? This guy will not survive on the stand. This interview, he's broken. He will not. He already threw his wife under the bus. The children are next. He won't survive. Look at him. Do you see what he's stuttering? He's blinking. She doesn't believe him. She was able to break him. The only thing I want to say is that these people who follow Donald Trump need to stop tanning like him, because they both look like they're near death.
Listen, the sun in Sardinia was quite lovely, actually.
Fire
They did take that trip to Italy, actually.
So, couple of things. You're absolutely right. I hadn't thought about it that way, Ida. That it's not going to play well with the jury when you're like, well, it wasn't me, it was my wife. Okay, that doesn't play well. Second of all, it also doesn't play well with prosecutors when you go, I'm not guilty, plus it was my wife. Right? And And then on the Wounded Warriors, they do sometimes golf tournaments to raise money for Wounded Warriors.
Right.
So they call the Wounded Warriors. They're like, did the hunters ever give you guys golf balls? They're like, who are the hunters? Okay, like no, Duncan Hunter never gave us anything. Total lies, etc. And my theory on the bunny rabbit is they just ran out of ideas. They're like, well, how do we waste people's money? How do we steal? Like, I don't know. We already went on the Italian vacation. We already got the shorts.
Mm-hmm.
We already got dental work. Like they spent it in
Which,
every
by the
single way.
looks great. Duncan,
Yeah.
Dunks, looks
Yeah.
great.
That's a fair point. Yeah, at least that money was well spent. And then they're like, I don't know. What do we do next? Oh, I got it. Let's fly our pet rabbit to, I don't know, New York. Let's go to across the country or wherever we're going. And then we'll have one more big laugh. And remember who the laugh is on. People who donated to Duncan Hunter. So if you trusted him and you gave him your hard-earned money thinking that he was going to stand up for conservative principles and drain the swamp and by the way, not waste money in Washington, he took your money and he laughed at you while he was flying his pet rabbit across the country.
The pet rabbit laughed too.
Is that what that is?
That was yeah.
Maybe it was a killer rabbit.
Also, let's just say the strategy of throwing the person who most closely knows your finances under the bus, which not only applies to Duncan Hunter but also the President of the United States. Like, maybe stop doing that. Maybe the people who like most closely know your finances, like your CFO or your essentially your fixer, your attorney, like don't throw them under the bus because they know everything about you. Don't throw your wife under the bus. Also, she got all the money, and I know we gotta go.
What's that?
What do you guys
The wife and the husband, they can choose to waive their marital immunity. So we'll see how that goes. By the way, I read all the details. It looks like she did it. Okay. But like he participated 100%.
Oh, who was it?
Like she was like, no, hey, you're gonna do this and then you're gonna do that, and he's like, yes, man.
So she was colluding with the rabbits?
Yeah, by she I meant the rabbit actually.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize the rabbit had a gender.
Don't get me wrong, they're both 100% guilty. And looking forward to that trial. Okay, we gotta take a quick break. When we come back, we got more for you guys, including Here Comes Rudy again, making a total mess of it. It's hilarious. All right, we'll be right back.
I just shot a clip. It's time sensitive and it needs to be edited. Did anybody call for it? Editor.
Need this in an hour. Sure, editor too.
Aaron, which one do you like better? What is this? Or what is this? Go.
I'm just doing what's right.
Yes, go back to that song.
Mexico's going to pay for the wall.
So good.
Very, very big price.
I can't finish it because it's so good.
Welcome back to a whole new season of Murder with Friends, the show where two friends get together and talk about the darker sides of history. You guys know that I go all the way on conspiracy theories, so work with me. How did the police let that happen? Because they were corrupt at the time. It was like awful, not that they still are. Statistically, we've all met someone who's murdered someone. It's creepy. You can't talk about a murderer without going back to his origins. It's Murder with Friends. Don't be scared. You're among friends.
Hey Dave, as you can probably see, Skype froze. Frozen crash.
You know, I'm watching a documentary on the Vietnam War, and there was a TV journalist in the middle of some tiny little village in Vietnam doing a live TV as the soldiers were burning the Vietnamese huts. And it didn't crash. And that was 1965, and he was in Vietnam.
Happened easy for me. I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. All my life, I was told no.
He said I had 12 hands. Oh, I never heard that one before.
Guess who? Sexual misconduct edition. Does your perp prey on children?
No. Did he grope someone and have a dynamite recipe for flatbread?
I don't know who this guy is. Does he have a terrifying button in his office?
Yes.
Is it Donnie?
Yes.
Alright, back on the Young Turks. Two quick comments for you guys. Mark Keister writes in on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you for interviewing both Alicia Magruder and Tom Wells from my district here in Florida. I hope you now believe me that there are indeed sane places in Florida, such as Gainesville and the University of Florida. Okay, a little bit. And you're welcome. Thank you for watching. I was on Rebel Headquarters. If you, by the way, if you remember, you get all of our shows anytime you want. tyt.com/join to become a member. Art Murray writes in, Duncan Hunter, quote, I did not commit campaign finance violations with that woman. All right, good one, Art. NordVPN. So we've been telling you guys about them because you got to protect your computer. People can actually find out what URLs you've been to, so make sure you get protection. Okay. 77% off if you go to nordvpn.com/TYT. That's a lot of percentages off. Okay, that doesn't leave you with much for a 3-year membership. Or you could use promo code TYT. They got a perfect score for PC Mag. They're the only VPN that got that. So remember, everybody, 77% off, nordvpn.com/TYT. Protect your internet. All right, what's next?
All right. Rudy Giuliani keeps digging the Trump administration's grave a little bit deeper. In an interview today with the New York Daily News, Giuliani said that about Paul Manafort, it's a white-collar crime. Who the heck is in jeopardy? The American public. I have as much sympathy for Manafort as the president does.
Wow.
You know what? They should issue a glossary of terms, because since truth isn't truth, everything that that comes out of Fire Marshal Bill's mouth here is always contrary to what the truth is or what right is. It's just so disgusting at this point.
Now crime isn't crime.
No, crime isn't crime. But I think that I know what you're saying. It's definitely contrary to what is correct and right and like presidential and legal. But he's basically saying that now white collar crime just isn't crime. And admitting this is white collar crime, and then two, basically because rich people don't get ever accused for the crimes or convicted of the crimes that they commit, it's not really a crime. Who did he hurt?
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah,
So what?
Who does he hurt by withholding millions of dollars that could help the public and cheating on business? Like, white collar people have never done anything to harm anyone by mis-selling mortgage-backed securities and causing the collapse of the housing. No, nothing. White collar people are fine. We should prosecute the real criminals who do things like steal baby formula from a store or sell weed to a cancer patient. Like, they're the ones who should be in our jails, not these people taking millions of dollars out of the system with their white collar non-crime.
All the black guys that stop and frisk was for, like all of those brown people who commit those crimes
that people who are broke, hungry, and struggling commit, not these guys who are part of the problem that keep the people who are oppressed down. Not the cause of the real problem. They should not get in trouble. Only the people who are suffering from the symptoms.
There is a remarkably liberal statement in the middle of that, though, that I actually, like, by Giuliani's standards, like, he's wrong about Manafort, but he said, like, who's in jeopardy? The American public. If he's genuinely arguing for a new standard of criminal punishment where people evaluate whether the American public is genuinely at peril and genuinely a threat from these people's crimes and then don't send them to prisoners as a result, he's about to revolutionize the prison industry. Like, millions of people are going to be freed overnight.
Actually judge crimes based on the harm they're committing to the general public. Yeah.
And I think that's what Giuliani was saying right there. I think that's the real underlying point that he was going for.
No, that's great. And so it didn't end there, of course. His interview continued. When talking about whether or not Trump will pardon Manafort, because remember, all of this is because Manafort is not on the S list. Like, Manafort is still A-okay. Trump is very sympathetic to Paul Manafort because he hasn't, quote-unquote, flipped, which is a word now Trump is using because he is a mob boss. But Giuliani did say that Trump does have the power to do it in reference to whether or not to pardon Paul Manafort, but that Manafort is hardly a menace to society. Just to remind viewers, Manafort is 69. He headed Trump's campaign between May and August 2016, was convicted in Virginia on Tuesday of 8 counts of fraud relating to the most shadowy lobbying work he did for pro-Kremlin political forces in Ukraine. Faces another trial. This is just one trial, right? There were 18 counts in all, convicted of 8, and apparently 10 of them the jury was almost in full unanimity about, but didn't get the conviction. But he's got another trial coming up on charges of being an unregistered foreign agent for foreign lobbying, money laundering, and lying to the FBI. Prosecutors plan to present more than double the amount of evidence in that trial, and Manafort could face an additional 20-year sentence if convicted.
So there's two parts to the story, as Francesca just explained. But let me take them one at a time. When Rudy first started talking about pardoning Manafort, that's obstruction of justice right there, basically saying, hey, you just got convicted, you might spend the rest of your life in prison. This would be the time that you would turn on Trump and give evidence that we know you clearly have about Donald Trump. Otherwise, why are we talking about pardons for this obvious criminal that was just convicted? And then he had to take it back because that was so brazen act of obstruction of justice. But the way he took back didn't make it any better. He's like, oh, we'll have to wait till Mueller's investigation is over, then give him the pardon. Well, you just promised him a pardon either way, right? So that's still obstruction of justice. And then
let's not get crazy now, Cenk. We gotta have some sort of pretense, though. Let him finish the investigation.
I'm not going to give you a bribe now. I'm going to wait until after the police have left and then give you a bribe.
Yeah, that doesn't make it any better. But I actually think the first part, even though that's the illegal part, I think the first part is worse for them because of how over the top offensive it is to the average American. So, and even Republicans. So, he said, I mean, what is he, a menace to society? And I remember Eric Garner was choked to death, partly based on his history of selling loose cigarettes, meaning cigarettes one at a time. It's not even pot, it's just cigarettes to avoid some taxes. At the time that he was choked to death, he was actually not even doing that. He was a good Samaritan on that particular day. But people, and some Republicans do not agree with us on. They're like, oh, menace to society. I mean, geez, and Lord mercies, one cigarette at a time. That's crazy, right? But Manafort is not a menace to society, according to Rudy Giuliani. I think this is where he loses even conservatives. Because he's like, what harm did he ever do? Well, this was one of the 8 charges. He hid $30 million so that he wouldn't have to pay taxes on it. Taxes at his bracket is 40%, about 40%. That's $12 million that he took from the American taxpayers. Because when he doesn't pay, you have to pay.
That's right.
And so he basically stole $12 million. Do you know how many loose cigarettes that is? Okay, he stole $12 million from you guys. And you got to pay more hard-earned taxes. And he turns around and goes, hey, look, when us rich people do crime, is it really crime?
Yep.
I think even conservatives look at that and go, man, this guy's such a jerk, to say the least. And they're not buying that. And even the jurors, he's like, I don't know what the jury was thinking. That's another quote he had. One of the jurors said, I came in wanting to make sure he was innocent because I like Donald Trump. But the evidence was overwhelming. I couldn't help but convict him. That's what they were thinking.
That's a good juror.
That's right. And that's a person who, by the way, did not come in with a completely open mind, but was at least open-minded enough to do her job as a juror.
Yes, like what? This guy is ludicrously guilty.
Yes.
Overwhelmingly upset. And also, while we're talking about what harm did he do, Francesca was talking about the fact that he was funding pro-Kremlin Ukrainian government destabilization. Like, oh, what harm is he doing to the American public? Oh, I don't know, destabilizing the world.
That's the Ukrainian public, though. Come on. No,
and nothing that happens in Ukraine ever spills over to America. We're fine. Manafort's a great guy.
Yeah, that'll never affect.
All of this, of course, is headed towards what I think we've talked about here a lot, which is they know they're guilty, and once they get caught, the answer is, so what? So what? Either that, or the very Dave Chappelle, I'm sorry, officer, I didn't know I couldn't do that. That's it. It's just, these are the excuses of pure privilege. So what?
Yep.
And I'm sorry, officer, I couldn't do that. Not even I'm sorry. It's like, what? Couldn't do that?
Yeah.
No, sorry.
No, you nailed it, Francesca. This is privilege defined.
Absolutely.
And this is rich man's privilege. I get to commit crime and get away with it. And you, if you ever stole anything, right? And what did they say about Michael Brown? That he stole cigarettos or whatever they are. It always comes back to cigarettes or something, right? He stole something that might have been worth $0.25, right? Quarter of a dollar. This guy steals $12 million in one of the 8 charges. And Giuliani's like, yeah, but he's rich. It's okay. Is that really a crime?
He's one of our guys. And that's what we do. We protect our own, and it's us against them. And until the general public comes to realize that this is a battle of the haves and the have-nots, that all the other stuff is a distraction, though valid, until we start learning solidarity and we stop writing for these parties and start writing for the people, we will continue to perish because they don't care about any of us. They don't.
It's true. I heard it in a Michael Jackson song. It's true.
Wow.
They don't really care about us.
They don't care about us.
Yeah.
You just I was so moved.
I know. I totally screwed it up.
No, you just sentimentalized it.
His birthday's next Wednesday.
Yeah.
MJ or Jen?
Michael Jackson. Oh, okay.
Same thing.
All right, one more break, guys. And when we come back, it's serious stories, but also that story we promised you at the beginning that you're going to absolutely love. The most insane conspiracy theory you ever heard. And we're going to play a game because some of us have not heard which is the correct one. Okay? So,
or which is the incorrect one.
Yes.
We'll talk about it later.
You're going to love it. Come right back.
Can we eat in here?
Once again, it's me, here at the Streamies. You people have thought that I was here to interview people. Instead, I was here to take it over for myself, my own agenda.
Congratulations on your award. Quick question, who's keeping it?
Well, we have a collective safe deposit box in Peoria, Illinois that we will be putting it in.
You have to plan ahead.
She's going to lay like this. You can hang your tank tops on it, and then I can put my coat on it. Maybe a towel.
If you hold your award, I'd be happy to do it. Okay, good. I'll just hold this real quick. Can you just get this for my mom? Just so she has no idea the difference. This year also has been a pretty big year for you politically. You sat down with, do you want to just name, Hillary Clinton?
Yes, our next president. Hashtag I'm with her.
Oh!
I'm just going to put that out there.
I already knew that, but I feel like it's powerful now. You just said it. You know?
Come on. I'm actually going to Florida next week and knocking on doors and trying to get all my fans. Make sure the millennials, you go out and you vote. It's very important.
What's next? Just, world domination. Yes. And some more matching tattoos and rings. Exactly. But honestly, what's next is whatever I can do to be a positive light in this world is what I'm going to do. Did you ever think when you started making YouTube videos that you'd be holding an award?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah. An Oscar.
You're the first. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. You're the first person that other people are like.
People always ask me that. Did you think you were gonna have 10 million subscribers? Did you think you were gonna be in a movie and all this stuff? And I said yes. You have to believe in yourself, ignorantly almost, or arrogantly almost, to the point where you have to believe in yourself when no one else does. So obviously, I believed in myself.
Once again, I am here backstage. Thus far, no one has suspected that it's not really Grace as an imposter. Good.
So congratulations on winning Show of the Year. Did you expect this?
I was hoping. I was thinking they were going to be top 3. I thought Good Mythical Morning might take it because they're a great show. They have a great audience. But I'm glad they didn't. Is that okay thing to say?
I'm glad they lost.
I'm glad they lost. I mean, I'm glad I won, but also that they lost because that's the only way they would have won.
Yeah, I've watched your videos since I was like a kid. Like I don't know if I was a kid, but for a while. No, I didn't. I wasn't gonna say that. I mean, you're not. Okay, but hey, you've been doing good content for that long. That's awesome.
And also, if I'm a dinosaur, what's Jink?
My hands, if they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee you.
You said I had small hands. They're not small, huh? I never heard that one before.
My name is Cassandra Hayes. I've been with TYT for 3 years. I am a video editor and a photographer. I edit the main show, Pop Trigger, and my favorite show, Murder with Friends.
Oh yeah, that's right. She said Murder with Friends.
Being the main photographer, I get to photograph and sometimes meet some of the celebrities that come through. Susan Sarandon was amazing because she brought her dog Penny. Meeting people like Joss Whedon and Quentin Tarantino has been some of the reasons why I got into filmmaking and photography was like a dream come true.
Alright, back on the Young Turks. A couple comments for you guys as usual. On Twitter, use hashtag TYT Live, by the way, to talk to us whenever we're live. Irina Kovari says, truth isn't truth, crime isn't crime, up is down, the sky is green. I can't wait to hear what Giuliani comes up with next. Us too. It's been fun. Only an idiot like Donald Trump would hire an idiot like Rudy. Right. David Cantor says on YouTube Super Chat, I'm always skeptical about the facts that the mainstream media reports, not because I think they're lying, but because of their group view. I don't have that problem with TYT. In Trump's era, it's nice to have an institution you can trust. Thank you. We appreciate that. And that's why it's important to support independent media. So tyt.com/join. And if you can, do the activist level because it makes a huge difference for us. We appreciate it. And I want to tell you about one of the things we support fellow progressives. And on Facebook, there is going to be a debate. Well, it's going to be a debate everywhere, but you can see it on Facebook. Here we go. Kerry Harris versus Tom Carper. So this is the race I've been telling you about recently. It's the Senate race in Delaware. So it's really important. United States Senate. Kerry Harris is a just Democrat, uncorrupted, takes no corporate PAC money. She's amazing. She fights for the people. I talked to her on Rebel headquarters. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's volunteers are there, and staffers there, helping her right now. Ocasio-Cortez went and campaigned for her because Kerry had gone and campaigned for Ocasio-Cortez before she won. They were there together from the beginning. Tom Carper is a corporatist extraordinaire, voted for the Iraq War, voted to deregulate the banks. He voted with Trump on that issue. He voted for Kavanaugh in the past. He's terrible. Total conservative Democrat in a blue state like Delaware. First of all, go to Kerry Harris's website too and phone bank for her, volunteer for her, KerryHarris.com/phone-bank. You can do that anywhere in the country, and I swear to God, it makes the biggest difference. So you could help get her into the Senate. Delaware is a tiny state, so all those volunteers can make a giant difference. And check it out. Obviously, Monday, August 27th at 7 p.m. is when the debate is. Ocasio-Cortez, in a lot of ways, won her race during her debates with Crowley. I think Kerry will do the same, so please check that out. And of course, we always have all the progressives at facebook.com/rebelhq. We stream the protests, we stream so many things. There's a progressive event going on is almost always at facebook.com/RebelHQ.
Women of color unite. Go and flip the table over.
Absolutely. And lastly, let me thank our members here. Teresa Ann Clark and Cameron Walk are the members of the day. TYT.com/join. All right, great. Francesca, what's next?
Okay. Speaking of news that the mainstream media is missing out on, Reality Winner, the 26-year-old NSA whistleblower, has been sentenced to 5 years in prison for leaking information to the media about Russian intelligence hacking into state election software ahead of the 2016 election. This is after Winner pled guilty to one count under the Espionage Act, and yet this is the longest term imposed by a federal court for a violation of the Espionage Act linked to a media leak. Winner, just for a reminder, was a federal contractor working with Pluribus International Corp in Augusta with top secret security clearance when she leaked information that served as a basis for a June 2017 article by The Intercept detailing a classified National Security Agency memo that contained information about a Russian cyber attack on a supplier of U.S. voting software. Because she leaked this to The Intercept, and then based on some basically missteps that Intercept journalists took, Reality Winner was discovered by the NSA and was arrested. And so First Look Media, which is the parent company of the Intercept, has actually donated to her defense fund. And the editor-in-chief of the Intercept had this to say about Reality, saying, "Reality Winner's courage and sacrifice for the good of her country should be honored, not punished. Selective and politically motivated prosecutions of leakers and whistleblowers under the Espionage Act, which dramatically escalated under Barack Obama, opening the door for the Trump Justice Department's abuses, are an attack on the First Amendment that will one day be judged harshly by history."
And you know what? It's a white collar crime. It's not a real crime. You know what I mean?
That's point. Yeah, Juliana said that about Manafort. That's right. And look, I'll go back to a point you made in that story earlier in the show, Ida. This is the haves versus the have-nots in a way, too. You think, wait, why? What does this have to do with rich versus poor? Or powerful versus not powerful? Well, in Washington, they leak all the time.
Yep.
Democrats leak, Republicans leak. The executive branch leaks, the legislative branch leaks. They all leak. They never go to prison. But if it's somebody who's actually trying to get you information that's really important, like this one, where we found out, it turns out the Russians were trying to get into the voter databases. I have told you from day one that is the most important part of the Russian story. Okay, they sent some tweets, whatever. There were other things that were bad, but trying to get into our voter rolls, that's the worst. And we might never have known that because the NSA keeps that stuff buried. But Reality Winner made sure that the American people knew so that, by the way, local election officials can know and take precautions, because the NSA oftentimes does not communicate, and in this case, they were not communicating with local election officials. In a lot of ways, she did a great service to the American people, so of course, she had to be punished. Now, when the rich and powerful leak, there's never any punishment. They never go to prison.
They get paid.
No, and Jen, I just want to pick up on what you were saying. So state-level election officials had not known that their voting software was being targeted by hackers. So Reality's leak actually helped them to better equip themselves against that, and that information completely has helped the American people. And the thing is that her trial has been so politicized, and she's been caught in between a rock and a hard place. This is the first whistleblower who's been prosecuted in the Trump administration, right? So Obama had a number, and now it's Trump's turn. And so, of course, throw everything at her. And so that meant that the defense couldn't bring evidence that they needed to bring, and essentially that evidence was that what she leaked did not spill secrets that were going to expose the American people to harm. These were not state secrets. They did not endanger anyone. She merely gave this information to media outlets so that we would all know as the American public that our elections were being attacked. A year before Robert Mueller actually identified those very same Russian meddlers and hackers. So I want to go to an Intercept article because this is really important. A key phrase that the government wanted withheld, and this is in her trial, was a specific name of the Russian unit identified in the document. But in the indictment of alleged Russian military intelligence operatives that Mueller's office released last month, the Justice Department revealed the same name, GR Unit 74455. The indictment went on to reveal information almost identical to that contained in the document Winner admits to disclosing. So this is already information that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and everyone else, right? And again, this is not a story that's getting covered, says this is the unit that tried to hack these state and local elections. And we know that information. This was the exact same information that Reality Winner was exposing. So what are we supposed to do? Like, I mean, obviously Trump would want Mueller to go to jail, but like no one else is being thrown into jail for leaking this intelligence information. So it's essentially, she is being made to bear the brunt for now something that we all know thanks to her.
Yeah, and besides which, 50 Cent talked about GRU unit a long time. I think that was already.
GRU
You know what? I see her in her military uniform and the book being thrown at her for trying to uphold our democracy, and then the man who dodged the military, and is trying to disrupt our democracy is chilling. And that really, really upsets me, and it should really upset the American people.
Yeah, I got a couple of quick questions. So, firstly, do we know how when she released it, like how long it would have been if she hadn't released that NSA document before Russia just hacked it and released it themselves? And secondly, I do want to know, because it's not covered in any of the articles, why she is called Reality Winner. Like, I want to know where that name came from. Like, at what point was that her parents thought, well, you're called Winner, that's our family name, you're going to need, like, something to bring you back down to earth, you don't get too big.
And what's surprising is that Donald Trump's not in favor of her.
No, Reality Winner is like...
You're good today. He's a fake loser. He likes fake things and calling people losers. Listen, I think her name, honestly, and I'm going to get sentimental here, I think her name means that she's going to come out on top out of this. And I hope that she comes out of those 5 years or 4 years, because she's already been a year in prison, knowing that she has people on the outside who are absolutely thankful for what she's done. And I hope at the young age of 26, someone who was a translator, right, who knew from a young age that she wanted to serve her country, that she joined the Air Force. There are amazing articles and bios written about Reality Winner. She really is a phenomenal young woman. I hope that she comes out and she joins, the progressive movement to make real change in this country, because we need her and we will welcome her.
Yeah, man, when you talk about the 5 years she's going to serve in prison, man, that is so harsh. Like, that brought it home more. The next 5 years, as you're enjoying your freedom, she's going to be in prison because she tried to help American democracy. So far, by the way, I mean, the hackers themselves haven't been caught, the Russians, right? She was telling you about the hackers. Luckily, some of the folks who colluded with them have been caught. But one more thing I wanted to point out. They're right. Obama opened this door.
Yeah.
So he started prosecuting reporters under the Espionage Act. And so now the reporters go after Trump all the time because he calls them enemy of the people. And that's true. He does call them that, and it is a terrible thing to say, and the reporters should challenge him on that. But they should have challenged Obama just as aggressively, if not more so, for actually beginning the prosecutions of reporters, trying to put them in prison under the Espionage Act. And that was atrocious. And now that Obama opened that door, Trump is super happy to walk through and realize that's what's happening. Again, it's the powerful versus the powerless.
And that's one of the things that Obama did that he's not trying to undo.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Trump's like, oh, okay, I'll take that one.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the conspiracy theory story. Let's skip ahead. Because
you want to play the game?
Yeah, let's do
You actually want to play this game?
I think so, yeah.
This is the story I think it is.
They do not.
This is, I got the email.
Okay.
All right, Jank, under my tutelage, I have a new game for TYT Live. It's called Misinfo Wars, and the subheading is, bring up the graphic, please. Three real fake headlines and one fake headline. 3 real fake headlines, 1 fake headline. Are you guys ready to play?
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
All right. First headline. Here we go. InfoWars. Misinfowars headline. SJWs want to change vagina to front hole.
Okay, so did InfoWars actually have that headline, or is that the fake news headline?
Is it the fake news or the real fake news?
All right.
Okay, second headline. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez 3D prints IUDs for small donors.
Now, 3 of these are going to be true.
3 of these are true.
That they actually
These
had
are
those
real
headlines.
fake.
Okay, they're not actually true. They're all fake news, but they were actual headlines in InfoWars.
Actual in pixels. Okay, next headline. Hurricane threatening Hawaii has been split in two by energy beam shot from Antarctica by John Kerry.
Okay, all right.
And lastly, InfoWars, Hillary caught on tape birthing alien life form.
So they ran three of those headlines.
Three of those headlines were in pixels on Infowars.com.
I'd like to remind everybody that the right wing is outraged that Infowars has been taken off of some platforms. They're like, how could you? When it's obvious that the IUDs are being printed for the small donors. And don't forget the energy beam. Okay, so.
That energy beam. All right, everyone gets a little vote. Where should we start?
All right, let's start with that.
All right, okay. So going through in order. Front whole story. I actually read that elsewhere. I'm going for that. That's a true.
True headline.
That is a true fake headline. That is a true lie. Cortez.
So it's actually real.
That's a real lie.
Okay.
As opposed to a fake lie.
Right.
Cortez 3D prints IUDs. That has the ring of truth because I think she's a true socialist and wouldn't reserve the 3D printed IUDs for big donors. I think the 3D printed IUDs
corporate money.
They're for everyone. Like they are for the people. But then we run into trouble because the last two are clearly both true. So, because I've got a friend who's in Hawaii right now and witnessed the Antarctica John Kerry energy beam, and we all know that. You know what? Actually, I'm going to change my vote here because I don't think that when Hillary is birthing an alien life form, she has to reveal her true form, her true self. And that wouldn't show up on tape.
Ooh.
I think when Hillary is in her true lizard being and she's giving birth, when she's spawning, the energy beams that radiate from that would interfere with any kind of recording device. Therefore, she could not be caught on tape.
And Infowars would know that, and hence that's the fake headline.
Absolutely.
Okay, interesting.
The video was unavailable.
It's really hard for me not to say Hillary caught on tape because everything is Hillary's fault, right? And Hillary is always doing what's wrong. But I would say that the top three are stories that they ran. And I think Hillary caught on tape birthing alien life form is something that Alex Jones believes in his soul to be real, but isn't ready to release that to the general public.
Okay. We are weirdly unanimous. Okay, and I will tell you why. Because I whenever playing these games, I always think, or it could be the cup in front of you. So, like, the people picking the headlines would have put Hillary Clinton in the fake headline because we would all guess that Hillary Clinton was in a real InfoWars headline. On that alone, I'm going to go with Hillary Clinton birthing an alien life.
Is the fake headline?
Is the fake.
All three of you?
Yes.
You're all wrong! You're wrong!
They never cease to amaze me.
You all were chill with John Kerry dividing a hurricane with energy beams?
Once again, I know that to be true, but the other...
Exactly.
So that one I cheated on because I knew they had that headline.
Can
I still got it wrong, by the way.
You guys, gosh, 3D prints IUDs for small donors? If only. AOC, let's do that.
Let's get on that.
Do we have time to watch a little snippet from one of these real?
Yes. Oh, please.
These real fake stories, which you're right. Maybe SJWs do want to change vagina to front hole, which I think is hilarious. I think we need to talk about that. But I do want to say that the hurricane that might have been split into two by energy beams from John Kerry, who happened to be visiting Hawaii, was in fact a real story on InfoWars. And let's just look at a minute of it. Just give you a taste.
Now, back on August 9th, there was either this hurricane or another hurricane that was winding up to hit Hawaii when an energy wave came out of Antarctica. Now, call me crazy, call me conspiracy theorist. I'm going to show you right now from August 9th. Now, watch what comes out of Antarctica here as two hurricanes are forming in Hawaii. Boom, an energy beam. What is that coming out of Antarctica, splits two hurricanes?
And watching that graphic,
remembering all of a sudden that didn't John Skull and Bones Kerry, the former presidential candidate against George W. Bush, another Skull and Bonesman, didn't he he made a quick trip to Antarctica not too long ago, did he not?
No, you're 100% accurate. John Kerry was in Antarctica. I think it was 2 years ago or less.
I don't know. Was he checking out the hardware or the facility? There are all kinds of different rumors and speculation.
Yeah, why is John Kerry going down to Antarctica just a week after the election to discuss climate change? And then you have energy beams coming out of Antarctica splitting hurricanes.
You know, there might be a direct line that connects that facility down in Antarctica to the Kalorama neighborhood of Washington, D.C., where the Obama Foundation is housed in a 8,400 square foot home that I believe is in part subsidized by the U.S. taxpayer.
Not just John Kerry, but it's also coming out of Obama. Okay.
Kerry down to Antarctica. Antarctica energy beams to the Obama Foundation. Are you following? Are you following?
How did Kerry lose the election when he has power and dominion over the weather? Like, how did he not just stand there, kneel before me? I command your vote.
From the X-Men.
Why didn't he use his laser beam on Bush? and by the way, he split the hurricane and saved Hawaii.
He's a hero.
I know.
He's a hero.
That.
Put him back in the office.
Amazing.
All right. That was awesome. Thank you guys. EverybodyFunnyIda.com and your podcast.
It's Probably Science and Matt Kirshen on Twitter.
Okay, there you go. Much love, guys. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.